Hi, I'm Nas, and today we're joined by Mujtaba, Khalid, and Hasan Nomani from Bagh-e. Bagh-e isn't just a startup. It's a blueprint on how Sharia principles of Amanah and Adil can guide through climate resilience. As floods and droughts reshape livelihoods, Bagh-e is proving that Islamic finance can be a tool for climate justice, equitable, scalable, and rooted in faith. Yeah, today we'll talk more about your venture and, exchange some ideas about it.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you for having us. It's an honor and a privilege to be part of this and looking forward to the discussion for the next hour or so. But before we start, I'd love to thank our families. I'd like to thank my wife, Nurmeen, and my kids, Zaina, Marosh, and Noor, who were always supportive of this, and our two cats, Pumpkin and Luna.
Pumpkin.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having us. Before we begin, I would like to thank my parents, my wife, my children, Narid and Ira.
Let's just start from the beginning, right? Where Bagh-e began to where it stands today. How would you describe the journey so far, the milestones, challenges, and moments that shaped its growth? As I understand, Hasan, you were in agriculture in Pakistan, and Mujtaba is a jet-setting Islamic banker, right? So how did this happen?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us. And the MIFC challenge was an amazing experience. Hasan will also jump in on this, but I have about 15 plus years of experience in Islamic finance. So I worked in the UK, a bit in Malaysia, Pakistan, and the GCC. And I've had projects in Africa, Central Asia, and even Southeast Asia, including Indonesia. And Hasan, he'll introduce himself, but as you mentioned, that he has experience in agriculture, mostly in Pakistan. And in both our lived experiences, one of the things we noticed was that small-scale farmers can have the most impact, but they're in the food supply chain, they're the worst off, right? And the main reason is a simple reason, it's financial exclusion. They're outside the net, the financial net. And everywhere, it's across the global south. And one of the most interesting things I saw was that if you look at the global map, right, where agriculture and especially small-scale agriculture is done, minus Latin America, all the small-scale farmers are mostly Muslims, be it Africa, be it South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. So India, as you may know, has more Muslims than Pakistan. So India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and even Indonesia, Malaysia, and then Central Asia. And yet they're largely ignored, right? One of the reasons is that Islamic finance products and Islamic financial products for them are largely missing. And that's where we thought this is an opportunity, not just to be a tech startup, but also to have an impact.
For me, how Bagh-e started was that Mujtaba was in Islamic finance and I was already doing agriculture. And one day I get a call from him that he says that he wants to do something in agriculture. And I said, let's do a call. We did a call, and the first thing he says is small scale farmers. I was like, I'm in. Because I saw that the hardworking farmers and their exclusion from the system. And, Bagh-e came up with a simple question: how can we help farmers to earn better and to grow more? And we decided that they don't grow because they don't have access to credit, fair opportunities, and technical know-how. And we decided that Bagh-e, we will build a platform that will empower small-scale farmers to have digital Islamic Sharia compliant credits, because the farmers were, if they can somehow arrange credit, that was via loan sharks at a really high markup or through banks, interest-based banks. And that's a big problem in the rural areas. And it's a growing problem. So we said we're going to do Sharia compliant digital credits to small scale farmers, and we'll help them with consultants with the best possible inputs and ultimately help them achieve yields.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit too, right? So you say small scale farmers, they don't have access to this credit. Why? And when you talk about them going to loan sharks, what's the interest like? What is excessive? And then how would you be able to take on that risk that banks can't provide them, can't take on, and that loan sharks would need a massive markup on top to lend to them?
So the first question, I mean, why they don't have access to, or why are they financially excluded? I mean, since the modern financial system, which Islamic finance is part of, fortunately or unfortunately, is made in a way where you have risk matrices, and you are collateral based. So your loans or financing is mostly collateral based. Both of which, the risk metrics exclude small scale farmers, because you don't have data on their spending habits, their asset types, whatnot. And secondly, they don't have collateral. So essentially, and not to get into too much philosophy or being philosophical, but the current financial system or the modern financial system makes the rich people richer. So if I have collateral, I can just access Islamic financing, conventional financing, investment banking, whatever. If I don't have collateral, I'm essentially excluded from everything. I can have the best idea. And you have seen that these things like VCs, right? You love them or hate them. They have given you things like Facebook, OpenAI, and all of that. People took risks and they changed the world. And this is what Muslims also need to understand in our part of the world, that yes, some things are risky, and people have also lost a lot of money. Yes, but those techs have changed the world. And if you apply that level of thinking onto small scale farmers, because you can't eat OpenAI, you can't, but you need food, right? And that is one of the biggest advantages of the Muslim world, not oil or not commodities. We grow food, we grow our own food, even from Africa to Southeast Asia. And we need to be more productive, because eventually will come a time that will be our strength. So again, I wandered off into philosophy, but I think one of the main things is collateral. The current financial system is made in a way that it's collateral based.
And that's the banking side of the aspect. When it comes to loan sharks or middlemen, the farmers are usually given inputs on credit at an exorbitant rate.
Right. And what's the rate?
Well, it would depend, maybe 10-15% on inputs. But what
per annum?
Per cycle.
Per cycle.
So say if they buy something for 100, it's on the market for 100 rupee, he would get it for 110, 120.
And what's a cycle?
3 months, 4 months. But that's just one where he gets it. Then what he does is he buys the input to the farmer at a fixed price, which is lower than the market price. So he essentially screws over the farmer there.
Yeah,
right.
And the worst
so he's
part
also the middleman, is what you're saying.
So the middleman is actually acts as a loan shark in this industry.
Right.
And the worst part is he has to sell the produce back to him.
Right.
And at a lower price than the market.
Right.
And sometimes the payment is delayed, so the farmer won't get a payment back for 2 months or 3 months.
Yeah.
So
you're essentially, so if you look at it, if you calculate it, so these are 3 or 4 month cycles. So you're paying 15% on inputs, you're selling it at 20% or a 10% lower rate, let's say 10%, right? So that's already 25% for 4 months. So it goes to about 100%, sometimes in some cases. And, so this is where the middlemen are getting richer in developing countries, right? Or agri-based economies. And the farmers who should be rewarded, and that's like Hasan mentioned earlier, that is one of the main drivers of Bagh-e. We want to reward the people who are actually doing the work, not the middlemen. And that's how, unfortunately, not just in Pakistan, but across Africa where I've worked, and in some countries in Asia, is how it works across.
Right. And how does your model differ? Of course, you're not the middleman controlling the logistics of it, and you're not a bank. You're not asking for collateral to comfort your risk appetite. So what do you do differently? How do you operationalize this model, which sounds to me includes concepts like amana and public benefit, or shared mutual benefit?
So I'll start by explaining very briefly what Bagh-e does. So what we do is, when we onboard the farmer, right, we have consultants on the ground. So we take a few matrices, right? And depending on the KYC of the country, we take those documents. But 3 of the most major data points we take is the water type of the land, the soil type, and the geolocation, right, of the land. What then our app does is it tells them, okay, so at this season, you can grow XYZ. So these crops you can grow. So let's say it's potato and corn, for example.
Right.
And So he or she, the farmer, can choose. So let's say he or she chooses corn. Then what our app does is it makes, based on the geolocation, the water type, and the soil type, a scheduler of best practices, which includes when to irrigate, what inputs to put when, depending on the weather, and when to harvest, right? A scheduler of best practices for that crop, right? So let's assume, so that's how we help the farmer digitally, right? Now let's assume the scheduler, we call it the scheduler, says in the third week, you need 2 bags of fertilizer per acre. So our app tells them, based on the geolocation, this is our closest approved vendor or input provider. It says this, and it tells the vendor that this order number for the farmer needs just this amount of inputs. So you're getting just the inputs required for that step. So he goes there, he shows the order number, he gets the inputs, right? And then we have access to consultants. So we have on-ground people who ensure that the scheduler is being followed. And then they're also taking pictures to ensure, yes, we're taking data points. So at this time, the inputs were put, this was the weather, this was the temperature, XYZ, this was the time. So we're taking data inputs as well. For later on, we want to use data analytics to automate all of this process, or as much as we can. So that's number one. So that's how the farming side works. Now we do a musharaka. A musharaka is a partnership-based profit sharing model. So the farmer pays for the labor and the irrigation cost. We provide all the inputs, the consultancy, and everything. Then what we do is, at the end of the crop cycle, let's say the potato crop cycle. So all the farmers on our team, let's say, or the ones we finance, we aggregate the outputs of them and sell it to a mill at a bulk rate. So we get better rates from mills, and then we do a profit share. On average, 70% goes to the farmers, right, and 30% goes to us. The reason we can work without collateral is that there are multiple reasons. So we're very engaged with the farmers, right? The second thing is we know what the yield is, the expected yield, because we're using satellite data. Just before harvest, we use satellite data to ensure that, yes, okay, so a month before, satellite data is pretty cool, by the way.
Yeah.
It can tell you expected yield just by taking pictures and stuff, right? So we know the expected yield. So we know that he or she is getting this. So we tell them, okay, this is what you're getting. Then within a couple of weeks at max, or a week, we pay them instead of 2-3 months, right, which the middleman takes, or even mills sometimes take. So we pay them quickly. So they realize that they stick to us, and they try not to mess up the relationship. Okay. Just because they have it better off. Right.
And for the benefit of our listeners, viewers, a mill is a distribution center in Pakistan. Is that what you call it?
A mill is a factory. Like a mill would be something which makes bread. Right. So if you're selling them wheat, right, or sugar mill, or whatever. Yeah.
So he's explained this side of how the app does and how the farmer is benefiting. I just need to add that there's a commodity price which the market decides, right, and usually people say, oh, what difference are you making if that price is, it's the market price which is decided. So there are a couple of advantages we give the farmers to onboard with us. And number one is that the farmer, if he's a small farmer, he can't buy inputs directly from a factory because they do a franchising model. Okay. They don't give to small farmers. So they give it to a franchisee who sells it at a markup to small farmers, which is standard business practice. Because we have the scale, we get wholesale prices and we transfer that prices to the farmer. We do not charge any profit in that. So a farmer makes money there. Number two, a small scale farmer cannot send it directly to the mill because of his scale again. And because we aggregate and sell it directly to the factory, we have the power to sell at a better rate to the mill. And lastly, when the small scale farmer sells to the middleman, there's a 4 to 5% commission on every transaction on his revenue, right, which is a huge figure. Right. And then sometimes they cut some charges or wastages about 1%. So that also farmer makes through us. So overall, the farmer makes a lot of profit with this. And just because we are giving him access to best inputs, he has the best chance to increase his yields. Right. So that's his added bonus he has.
So if I understand, you're giving them cheaper supply, better information and data, better access to where they can sell it, and a fair cut,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
Yeah,
And that's how you're going to disrupt
the
the
market.
industry in Pakistan.
Absolutely.
And the world essentially.
And the world,
Because
right?
this is a problem across the global south.
But how do you balance profitability with your need to do social good, right? At one point, there might come an equilibrium where you would need more margins to scale. And how do you foresee that happening for you?
So, I mean, even at the Global Islamic Finance Forum, there was a talk, and one of the talks said that ESG stocks have outperformed the global S&P index and everything. So, firstly, it does pay to be good. I mean, I don't know where this thought comes from that if you're doing good, you're impacting your profits. I mean, and this is research studies, not
Right.
just me saying it. It pays to be good,
Right.
right? So that's number one. So we're not worried. We don't think like that because we do see the value on sustainable practices, ethical practices. Even from an Islamic perspective, there's more barakah, and that's
Yeah.
because as Muslims we strongly believe that. So that's number one. We don't. But even in the farmer, and you mentioned it earlier that the maslaha part,
Yeah.
right? There have been multiple reports and studies done by the Islamic Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, the World Bank that says that if you make farmers more productive, so if their yield increase, it's not just that there's more food.
Right.
They have access to better healthcare. Their children have access to better education, and the microeconomy of the village gets a positive multiplier impact. So that village will have a positive multiplier impact on the GDP of a country.
Right.
So everyone wins. And again, because we're not interest based, we're doing a profit share. It's in our inherent interest that the farmers do well. Because of, let's say, 50-50 of $100 and a 50-50 of $1,000, of course, we would want them to make $1,000 because we're having a positive impact,
Yep.
but we're also making money.
Yep.
So this model, I think, is much better than an interest-based model in our experience at the moment, the way we run our business right now.
Cool. And I mean, I'm glad you touched on the Western ESG side because for people who are, uninformed about it, how does Sharia lens differ from that?
It's an interesting thing that I think even there are multiple hadiths, for example, and we all know this and we've been taught this as kids as well. For example, the Prophet ﷺ said that when you do wudu, don't waste water, for
Right.
example. You're not supposed to, even in war, you're not supposed to cut down trees unless it's really necessary. So we have, ESG essentially is something new. We have, and it's unfortunate some Muslims or countries are not taking it seriously, but inherently in our Islamic teachings, this has been a very big factor, right? The Prophet has told us to be kind to animals, for example, not waste food.
Yep.
There's barakah in business, for example. So that means there's equal opportunities is something which is inherently very Islamic.
Right.
So I look at it from a Muslim lens, and the ESG stuff came later.
Right.
It's good. And I'm not saying it's bad in it, but the saying that Islamic values should fit in ESG, I think ESG should fit in Islamic values because we predate ESGs for about 1,350 years, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way and we both, I suppose, look at it from that perspective.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
Cool, man. And that's an amazing thought you have. But what would be a climate finance ecosystem look to you, right? What would be a good ecosystem to have, not just in Malaysia, but maybe all across the regions, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, look, climate is a very pressing issue. I mean, you've seen floods in Pakistan recently, even in India and even other places. And then there's heat waves in Europe, which is essentially killing people. And it's everywhere. And this is where, I mean, we're at a stage as humanity or as a world where we no longer can ignore the fact that climate is going to be a big issue, not just in our lives, but then eventually it will boil down to finance as well in all aspects of what we do. So climate financing, I think green bonds or green sukuks is something which Malaysia has taken the lead in. Indonesia has also done well. I think, was it last week or the week before, the Islamic Development Bank issued green sukuk, which were 50 times oversubscribed, if I'm not mistaken, or something, which were oversubscribed, excuse my exact number. But
I think it was Philippines, to be fair.
Even the IDB also issued a green sukuk, which was multiple times oversubscribed. So that means there is a demand. And we need to fill that demand. And imagine having sukuks which are backed by land revival of land, right? Rather than us have to or making farmers more productive.
Yep.
So rather than cutting down trees, you have so many farmers. So according to I think the UN's FAO, there are 500 million small-scale farmers around the world,
Yeah.
right? Now, instead of increasing and foods, the population is increasing, which means we need more food supply, right? Now, instead of cutting down trees and making more farms in Brazil or whatever, why don't we just make existing farmers more productive,
Yeah.
right? It will save the environment. So imagine having sukuks or bonds, even green bonds,
Right.
backed by these things, which will obviously, if you're making farmers more productive, you are making money.
Right.
So you're doing good. You're doing something sustainable. You're saving the planet. And also essentially you're making money, which isn't haram, you know?
Yeah.
So I think there's a huge opportunity, and as humanity, we no longer can ignore this issue.
Make farming great again.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think if we empower the system we already have,
Yeah.
the small scale farmers can, contribute at macro level in the whole economy of the country and to the food security.
Right.
And on a micro level, they can uplift their social standing and their life.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And from a Bagh-e perspective, right? How do you envision Bagh-e would transform the world into a better world, into a more climate resilient world?
I mean, it's one step at a time.
Right.
So right now, for us, and this is me speaking personally, even if we can have an impact on making a village better than it was, the health standards of a village, the education standards, the capacity to spend or the micro economy of a village better, that's a win. And the more you can feed people from their existing resources, that's a win. Taking people away from the riba system, which is so much entrenched in some of our, economy. Yeah, that's a win. So Maqasid al-Sharia, if we just follow those perspectives, so making people better off in a Sharia compliant manner, so taking them away from riba, helping their nasl, which is their lineage, right? All of that stuff, so that's the win. So, and, you start with one village, right? And then it has a multiplier impact, right? So if you can do it in one village, essentially you can, and it's a model that works, you can take it around the world, right? So I think for now, it's just us concentrating on a micro, and then inshallah, with barakah, it expands. If people see you're doing well and you really want to help people, I think it expands with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Hasan?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I believe that when you support farmers and you educate them in best practices, you really change the entire society. Because, for instance, right now there's a common practice: when you cut wheat crops, they burn the crop because they burn it because it gives free potash.
Right.
They don't have money to put that, so they get it free. But the environmental hazard it has on the country in general, we have massive smog problem when that season is going on. And that's main contribution is from burning crops. So
Right.
in our area, we don't let them burn the crop. What we do is we say we can make money from this. So you bale that hay and you can sell it as to the feed industry. And that's what they've learned, that we don't burn because they can make money from that, and we provide them the potash later on, so that they don't affect the environment. So yeah, it's one place at a time, and then we'll be able to scale that. We have a
Right.
good model.
Cool. All right, I just want to get your thoughts and experience on the MIFC Global Impact Challenge, which was organized by Bank Negara Malaysia, BNM, MIFC Leadership Council, and also Asia School of Business, where you went through a 3-week accelerator, 4 hours a day, every day almost, and leading up to a demo day, which you won one of the challenge tracks, right? Challenge track through to climate resilience. So yeah.
I mean, so look, I'll start from the beginning, right? So I have 15 plus years of experience in Islamic finance, and I can categorically say that Malaysia has been the leader in Islamic banking, and the initiatives that come through Malaysia are truly world class, right? And Bank Negara is at the forefront of this, right? And I've worked in multiple places, and sometimes my reference as initiatives or regulations has always been Bagh-e, you know. So we'd like to thank firstly Bagh-e. They did a fantastic job, and they truly have initiatives which are very forward-looking, not just for the local Islamic industry, but for the global Islamic industry. So the experience as a whole was amazing. We had great mentors. We had great ASB facilities. And everything was done very seamlessly by all the organizers involved, including yourself. Yeah, thank you. It was a great experience. And we were very honored that we received the award from His Excellency, the Prime Minister of Malaysia. It was a truly honor, a great honor. And his speech was amazing. Like, it showed that he had a clear understanding and a vision, and Malaysia has a clear understanding and a vision for Islamic banking, and to become a leader, not just for Malaysia or in the ASEAN region, but for global Islamic banking. And it was, as someone who's been involved in the industry, it's really great to see.
Right, well said. And Hasan, what made you want to join the program? I mean, I'm sure you read the call to action somewhere online. What made you decide, Mujtaba, we have to sign up. We have to go through 3 weeks. We have to fly to Malaysia and try this.
Okay, so this was the other way around. So he's in the industry, and he came up to us. He's like, there's an accelerator program in Malaysia, and it's the best place to be for Islamic finance. And they're the leader in finance, Islamic finance. And I said, yeah, go for it, because this is something which would really be helpful for us as learning. And obviously, if we win it, it will be really good for our company. And alhamdulillah, that we've come so far. The accelerator program has far exceeded our expectations. It was seamlessly done. The lectures were amazing. The mentors, the question and answers, all amazing. And I would also want to thank Bank Nagara, ASB, and yourself, and all the mentors which were tirelessly available for us throughout this journey.
No, thank you for coming and making the program amazing. And speaking of, it's contestants and participants like you that really bring the program to life. How important is it for you to have strong startups to work alongside you in the program? And what are your thoughts about startup communities and building on that post-program, right? Like, do you guys have a WhatsApp group?
Yeah. So I'm a very strong believer that you can't do everything on your own. That time of businesses has passed. So it's about, leveraging off each other. If someone is good at something, you don't have to be exactly like him. You join him together with you. You build something together. So I think this opportunity, this accelerator, and now we have a WhatsApp cohort, so we can actually stay connected and build something together.
Yeah, and I mean, look, so it's even with my experiences in different universities, so as an LSE graduate and a Harvard graduate, my learning was not that much from the teachers. Those are great learnings as well. But the biggest learnings you keep with you are the ones from your peers, because everyone, especially in our cohort, are tackling different issues. So like Hasan said, it's about forging alliances, right? It's about working together for a common goal. And we've had some great participants or colleagues in this cohort who are doing fascinating stuff from e-wills and all in the Islamic finance and ethical space, from e-wills to giving Qard al-Hasana and to Barakah linked spending. So it was fascinating to see the amount of innovation coming from not only Malaysia but around the world in this space, and I'm very hopeful for the future.
Do you have one particular startup where you were just competitive with?
No, but we will say this inshallah, Go Barakah has done some amazing work.
Right.
And another one was Mad Cash.
Right.
So those two have done. And I'm not saying anything about the others that they're bad, but I'm saying I personally, I'm sure Hasan might have another answer or whatnot, but I was really impressed by those two startups. They were doing some great work.
I think I want to put myself in the spotlight, so I will agree with him.
Hasan has thoughts. Hasan has thoughts about this. Okay. All right. Cool. And I think before we end the segment, I'd just like to ask for both your advice to more Sharia-aligned innovators out there in the world. Of course, fresh off your win of the MGIC Global Impact Challenge 2025, let's start with you, Hasan. What advice or words of encouragement would you have to Sharia-aligned innovators worldwide that you would give yourself personally 10 years ago?
I would say that look at problems and come up with a solution which is aligned with values, which is aligned with our Islamic values, which have been laid down for decades ago, and do good for people. It's good to earn profit. You should make products, make businesses which are ethical, which give more benefit to people than to yourself, and be good in society.
What about you? Mujtaba?
The advice I would give my 10-year-old self or 10 years ago was just don't eat too many donuts, man. When you get old, it's really hard to lose weight. But if you want advice that I'd give to someone who's starting off in the Sharia industry, in Islam, I mean, look, there are a few things. I mean, the CEO of not NVIDIA, what's the other chip company?
AMD.
AMD. She said that if you see a hard problem, you should run towards them rather than away from them. And the reason I say that is because very few people try to tackle hard problems.
Right.
I would always, and this is something even when I graduated from uni way back, I always looked at areas where there was less traffic. And sometimes that's where you can have a more impact.
Yeah.
If you align that with Sharia, Maqasid al-Sharia, and doing good, then there's nothing like it, right? So you're doing good and you're helping people as well. So I think that's the dream.
Right. Cool.
Absolutely.
And I guess before we end, and I thank you. I mean, we have 3 cameras right here, and probably a global audience. So make your ask to anyone, investors, partners. You have 10 seconds to do this.
Oh,
Go for it.
Jeez. So if you're a value-aligned investor, if you want to make an impact, we can work. We're willing to work with people, and the idea is to have a positive impact in the world, aligned with Sharia.
Where can people find you?
Oh, LinkedIn. You can email me at mkhalid@bagh-e.com with a --e.
Yeah, and it's also www.bagh-e.com.
All right. Thank you so much. This is Nas with Mujtaba, Khalid, and Hasan Nomani from Bagh-e. And thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be part of this.
Pleasure to be here.